because Wayne told me that this was where Bill Sollner's collection of puppets was stored. And they took the puppets, and this is the place here, the Puppetry Arts Institute. It's in Independence, but it's in the historic Inglewood district. And this is sort of, they're trying to turn this into an arts district up there. And this is Bill Sollner. I did this all because I knew Bill, I met him, and knew very little about him. We talked about gardening mostly, and he showed me his puppets once, but I really didn't know all the stuff Bill was involved in. And I got involved with this Talking Heads group, and they mentioned Bill one day, and I thought, wasn't that great? They know Bill, and they started telling me about Bill, and I found out a whole lot about him I didn't know before. But this is a puppet he made of himself, it's a little self-portrait, and he puts on puppet shows, and these are some of his puppets.
Elvis.
Is this in Independence, Kansas?
It's in Independence, Missouri.
Missouri, okay.
And it's in the Inglewood district.
And what on the right, is that Miss Piggy later in life?
I'm not sure who a lot of these people are. This was, wasn't this a French comedic actor or a cartoon character? But Bill made all of these.
Many of his puppets were real people like these.
This is Ted, and that's Ron Reagan. I think that's Ron Reagan.
Could be.
Yeah, a lot of these, a little bit of guesswork at some of these. And he put together stages, he put together all kinds of different puppet shows.
Did he make all the puppets?
He made them all. He made them all.
That one really looks like Bill himself there, doesn't it?
It hardly even looks like a puppet.
Yeah, that's his best work. Oh, that's nice.
He played the violin, he played the accordion, I don't know what else he played.
There's your Bill.
This is the picture you sent me,
Oh.
Don. Was
Yeah.
that good?
That was at Lou's wedding reception 2 weeks before Bill died.
Yeah, he looks terrible.
And you can see he was on oxygen while he was pushing that big thing.
This is a mural in Inglewood here, at that district in Inglewood, that's part of the arts district thing. It's this mural here.
Bill, do you know if those represent some actual persons or those are representatives of groups, or have any idea?
This is just some artist depicts, you know, it's like Bob Dylan says, it means what you think it means. This is, now what's coming up next is the stuff that's at Axe Library. And I throw this in now since we're talking about Bill now. This is the 2 boxes that are at Axe Library of Bill's collections that are held there. And this is all stuff that came out of there. They have a copy of this book, and I have a copy of it here today. This Mahoon Scrolls. It's just hilarious, the creativity of him, and each, you can read any one page in there and see what he's doing. It's really very, very funny.
Manahuni.
The Manahuni. And there's a couple, there's 3 different movies in there on film. There's this here, there's a whole bunch of these off-center magazines, and he published this magazine in Kauai in the late 80s, early 90s, and this was one about Big Brutus, which I'd never seen, so that's why I took this one, chose this one. This is a game he invented about Kauai, and he made a board, and he had a bunch of rules and how to play the game, and he created this from old cloth, you know. And this is all the different cards that you can get when you card off the pile, these are the different cards you get, and they're like different bureaucratic snafus that occur to people, is what it is. It's a bunch of different dealing with government agencies and what happens to you when you deal with government agencies.
Go to jail, go directly to jail, do not
That's
pass
right,
go.
that's right.
These are even worse.
Is it based on monopoly that you go?
Well, I
around
would
and
imagine
get
it
the
is.
position?
Take your environmental impact statement. And include their concerns for wayward girls.
Oh, no.
Put all utilities underground. Complaints about crazy neighborhoods.
Wild card, clean out the general fund and take a vacation. Take another card, you still don't have a full deck.
Hi, I'm Kraig. I'm the Artistic Director here at the Puppetry Arts Institute in Independence, Missouri. I'm going to take you on a tour of our main museum here, which is the Hazelle Rollins Puppet Museum. Now, this lady here, get a close-up of her. Her name is Hazelle Rollins, and she worked at the Nelson Art Gallery in Kansas City in the 1930s. She made puppets, and they said, oh, these are really, really cool. You should make some more. So she started making puppets for more and more kids. And then somebody said, why don't you show these in New York? So over on this wall here, she went to a toy exhibit in New York City, and they said, you should make these. So she came back to Kansas City. This is during the 1930s, during the Depression, a woman, and she started a puppet factory in Kansas City. And she had the largest toy puppet factory in the entire world here in Kansas City from the 1930s to the 1980s. She made millions and millions and millions of puppets. She made marionettes. These are the puppets. These are the ones from the 1930s. The heads were made out of clay, composite clay, and she sold those. And then in the 1940s...
Popeye.
Yeah, Popeye.
Olive oil.
Yes, I don't know, that Jack and the Beanstalk and whatever, so...
I don't know this guy
No, she
here.
were just characters, but then she started making the string marionette puppets, plastic heads called tenites, and those are really big in the 1930s. Actually, this is one put together, but as you can see, this is all the stuff was handmade. Some of the stuff on the wall. These are all the objects that went to work to make the puppets.
These look like they're Dutch down here. At least a couple of them are.
Yes, this one here, we used it in our Missouri Bicentennial show. These were 1950 puppets that she made. They're on its kick line. These kind of represent some of the cultures of Missouri when we celebrated during the Bicentennial.
Okay.
But if you see here on the wall, these are all the parts. Everything was handmade, hand done. If you can see on the very top, the ladies in the stools here. they sat and they sewed those. This was scandalous during the 1930s. Women were working outside the home. So they made and sewed all these puppets, probably made a couple dollars a day, but that was like pretty cool back then. And that just shows the costumes and the heads for the vinyl puppets, which are over here.
I want to show these boxes here. Look at this here.
Yes, the
This is the boxes that came in when you bought
Yes,
one.
yes, and some of these are collectible. This is the most collectible one. It's beautiful. It's very Art Deco, you know. But the advertising during the 1950s and 60s, advertising was just important. So these are some of the boxes. Then they're beautiful, beautiful artwork.
Yeah, very nice.
And these are marionettes. You can see it. Yeah, but over
And
here,
the difference between a marionette and a
a marionette
puppet?
is on strings.
And a puppet. It
And
could be a hand puppet or.
and I'll show you on the other side here too.
Okay.
So here's some of the other marionettes she made. This was during the 50s and 60s. You got to remember they didn't have, cable TV and 9,000 channels. So
So this was pretty good entertainment.
kids would buy a stage and they buy the puppets, and in the puppets was a short little play, and they practice the play and then they perform it for their grandma and grandpas. But people collect these all over the world. Avid collectors. These just show a lot of her different styles and characters. Very simple toy marionettes. These are the rarest. These are the hardest to find and the most expensive because Batman and Robin, they were only made for 1 year in 1966. Remember the Batman and Robin. So she made these and they sold them in the Montgomery Ward catalog. She didn't sell those at the factory. So these are the most collectible. And then over here on this wall, she did hand puppets. And these are all hand puppets that were made. They were made from these vinyl heads in the molds in the factory. And I think over there you saw some pictures of the molds. And they were all, painted and sold. So these are all the examples that she did.
Oh wow! Look at this here.
And she also was the first toy company in the United States to do multicultural puppets. She was the first to have like African American, Asian.
Depending on what year this was made, that's pretty progressive.
It was. She was a progressive, independent, unique woman.
In all of my history studies, it's the erasure of Black history is whatever they say,
Well, you saw over here.
endemic. It's
Come
everywhere.
over here for a second. You can see these were in the 1940s. These are African Americans.
That is amazing that she was
had-
making these in
and
the
she
40s.
had Latino. She had Latino. I mean, she was a very hip, cool, progressive woman, and so people appreciate that. Also, over here, what I was going to say about these
amazing.
for this place here. When the company went out of business in the 80s, no one could buy it, so we had millions and millions of these puppet heads left. So we have all these stored in an underground storage unit, and for the past 20 years, people can come pick one of the unpainted 1950s puppet heads, paint it, get a costume, do a show, and then they have their own hand puppet and their own piece of Kansas City history.
So I want to see these other puppets over here now. I haven't seen these.
And these are kind of hand puppets with legs.
Oh, I see. Sure.
She was always trying to
Innovate. She's innovating.
There used to be a children's book called Highlights. That was in the dentist's office. There was some called Goofus and Gallant. I don't know if there were these cartoons where there were. Anyway,
I do recall
She
them.
one made
They
mistake.
had these on TV.
Yeah, and
they
so
had
she-
these guys on TV.
And so she made those.
doing cartoons with these puppets.
She would also be very inventive too because she could take. It was about making money. So this was one puppet head that it could be male or it could be female or it could be African American or whatever, just by how you painted it. And that's what's interesting when we have the kids come paint.
Oh, these are the same
See, it's the same
head.
See, it's the flat top.
It's just painted
Now,
differently.
you could have a Caucasian boy, African American. You could have a witch. You could have a girl. But she, just how you use that. She also. Are you familiar with the Beverly Hillbillies?
I've got my Jed Clampett figurine on my
Well, right over here,
souvenir wall.
She was good friends with a man named Paul Henning, who
Oh,
lived
okay, sure.
who lived here in Independence. He created the Beverly Hillbillies, and he had her commission a set of these marionettes to look just like the Clampetts. And somewhere out there's an episode of Ellie Mae Clampett.
Do you have these? Do you have these
No,
marionettes?
these are like in the
These?
Smithsonian.
Yeah, those are amazing.
But somewhere there is a video out there of one of the Beverly Hillbillies where, Ellie Mae, the character, and
Sure.
she's out in the back doing a puppet show for her critters. So Hazelle made those for them. This was interesting too. This was a puppet head that she made for an ogre. An ogre like a ugly, like Shrek type. This was back before Shrek. Well, somebody thought that was really cool, and they thought
He looks more like Frankenstein.
well, they thought it looked like one of the Beatles, so they started painting them.
Oh, there he goes.
Started painting them
George.
and selling them as the Beatles until the Beatles found out and said, no.
That looks like George.
But basically, see how it started out as a,
Yeah.
see the difference, like an ogre, like a creature,
Same
like
head.
a creature, something like that. So that's what we're about, and that's what we
I
do.
want to show these here and show
Sure,
me
sure.
about these here at the end.
Well, these are a combination. Now, I told you some of the marionettes had plastic, had the hard heads. She was always innovative, so she took some of the hand puppet heads and put them on a marionette body so she could make more marionettes. Because these were originally just hand puppets, and then she put the hand puppet head on a marionette. And this is like, see how, once again, this character here could either have been Pinocchio or it could be like a jester. Clowns were really big. Her biggest selling clown was one named Tito.
And here's a little show
Oh,
here.
these are little finger puppets. That
Of course,
and
sure.
we can buy those here too. Little finger puppet stage for all ages. This is the little stage you could have bought on,
Uh-huh.
and you'd have this in your living room and do that.
Sure. I went to a church down in Pittsburg, and they have a little stage up on the stage, and they have a children's
Yes.
sermon every Sunday, and they do a little puppet show.
Church puppetry was really big in the 80s. But what if you look at these, they're really, really cool. These marionettes, I like this one here. This reminds me of my dad. This is like, 19 World War II soldier.
Was your dad a sailor?
Yeah, he was in the Navy. But I just like this, and she is just a little bit racier,
Oh,
she's-
yeah.
And then we have the
Almost
witch.
a Mae West.
This is very all-American 1950s baseball, apple pie,
Sure.
And then of course there was during the 50s there was the cowgirl and the whatever Davy Crockett. Once again, here's an African American, it's like a Wild Bill Hickok.
Absolutely. That's Custer.
and,
That looks like Custer to me.
Okay.
This guy
You're
right here.
You're right. And see, whatever kid you are, and then that could be cowboy, and that's the prince, and over there in the corner is the princess. All the classic. This is kind of neat. The devil. We have devil heads too, but we don't put them out very often because sometimes we have very conservative groups come in who.
They don't like it.
It's like, well, I call it a character. It's a character.
That's right.
Or it's a fawn, and so that's kind of what we're about at the Puppetry Arts Institute, and that's
Wow.
that's what we do is we get
Well, this is a wonderful room. Thank you very much for showing it to me.
Come visit us, okay?
Okay. Yo, and
Thank you.
hey, thank you very much. This is really very nice. I like it. I really like it.